Hi there, Biney here. From our previous session, we learned how to work with radio buttons on the page. Let's now look at how we will interact with Dropdown so that we'll be able to set it to any value that we so please within our web page. Alright, so to pick a value from a Dropdown, there is actually an action for that. And so when we come here, we'll look for drop, and then again you get these two, UI automation and browser automation. And once again, I'll advise you pick the one with the web automation since you are working on a web page. Then we drag and drop it here. Once we drag and drop it there, we are going to have to select the UI element that we set for that, and that is what we call the select option here. So we click on that, we'll go to this place, and then for the operation is going to be that we are going to select it by name. If you want to select it by index, that means you are using a number. Okay, so as in 0 or 1, 2, 3. So if I say that, I mean the 0th item, the first, second, third, fourth. That can also be done, but we would like to target it by name. Okay, then you'll be asked for the name. So I know within the list there is, let's pick this one with T region, so like that, and it's case sensitive. If you don't type it as it appears there, it will throw an error. So we do that. Let's test it out and see. And of course, I'll come into the advanced section and then take off the wait for page to load because it kind of delays it. So let me run that and see if it works. Good. So as you can see, it was able to change the drop down to the value that we set. So that is method 1. And of course, in our case, if you want to automate it, you probably would want to make it such that it's able to pick the value and then put it there. And so what we'll do is to set a variable for that, and then put the variable here. Let's call it maybe region. Then we'll put in a value. So in this case, let me put central region. Oops. So once I have it there, I can come to the drop down area, clear this out, and then put our variable there. Good. Now let's test it and see. Good. And it picks that. So it will pick whatever the variable has, and then that is what it will. But in this case, make sure it select the options that you have for your drop down. Okay, good. Let's look at another approach to this. Now when we go in here, you would realize that it has an option to use regular expressions. That means we can do partial matches in there to look for our options instead of typing it entirely. So for instance, if we toggle on the regular expression option, I could come in here, and I know that with regular expressions, one of the things that I can write is we can do start with, and then maybe this time let me pick Volta. So start with Volta. I put a dot here and then an asterisk or a plus. Either way it should work. So let's see. Good. And that one too works. So I'm technically saying that I want it to pick something that starts with. Okay, if I did not bring that and then I just left with like that, guess what happens? It's able to pick that one too. That's because I still have the regular expression toggled on. But if I should take it off, it throws an error. So if you want to be able to do partial matches and pick them, you toggle this on and then that should work. So let's change to something else. Test it out. Good. It's able to pick that one too. And note that when you have the regular expression toggled on, something interesting happens here. Let me just do this. I used lowercase. Let's test it out and see. It's able to identify it irrespective of the case of the letter. Okay, so it's case insensitive by default. All right, so that is with the default mode for the drop down. Okay, so let's comment again. Method 1. Then we want to disable this because we're going to do another method, a different method. Now for the next method, what we are going to do, like we've been doing in the previous ones, is going to look at how we can use just keystrokes to work around it. Okay, and like we did previously, we first would have to focus on here. Now there is this behavior with drop downs. If we kind of select it, okay, I've tabbed into it, so you could see that I started from here, I tabbed into it, and then if I do say, given the options that I have, if I tab into it and then maybe I do N, it gives me northeast. I do N again, it gives me northern region. So it toggles within it. If I do W, it gives me western. I toggle again, western north. So I'm able to cycle through the options there just by sending keys. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to, based on what we want, we are going to focus on that field and then use the keystrokes to select the option that we want. So that is also an option that we have. So how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by first typing out the focus. We'll select focus and we are focusing on location. Of course, I'll turn off my weight. And then this is method 2. Sorry, I forgot to change that. Good. Now we are able to focus on it. We have to send the keys. So send keys, that's a mouse keyboard action. So we go in there. And then, assuming I want the Volta region, I could just put in a V. Now let's run that and see. Good. And you see that also is able to select the option that we want. So that is method 2. Either you type out the name fully or you could just use the first few keys of the text and then you still get it. Alright, so let's disable that and look at method 3. Alright, so to use the scripting method, what we'll do is we'll come here and then we'll grab this one. We will come in here and we'll come back to it. I want us to look at something. So when you check the UI element for that particular element over here and check the code behind it, it's a select tag with an ID of program center. So I'm going to copy that. I'll come in here and then write the JavaScript code, and of course always we start with the return here for this particular activity. So return, do document, dot query selector, and we bring that single quotes or double quotes, because we'll be targeting it with the double quotes in there, so we'll have to use the single quote outside here. Okay, remember to do that. Now once you've been able to type out that is the value that we intend to change, okay, and so what do? We can now put the value method there and then set it equal to whichever value that we want. So in our case, let's do central region. Okay, and close that off and save. Let's see how it works. Let me save first. And it checks out. So it's able to set the drop down value to what we want. Okay, let's change it to Volta. And run it, and it's able to change it. So this is another method we can use to set the value. Of course, if you would like to use variables here too, it works. So you could come in here and change this part to the variable that you have regarding this particular option that you want to select. Okay, so for instance, let's test that out quickly. Did this as region, and then over here let's do Western region. Good. Come in here and then change this whole part to that variable region. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like. We'll save that and we'll go and run it. Alright, so I think I forgot to put these codes here around the variable. Good. Let's run it. Alright, so let's change it to a different region and see if it works. T. Let's run that and see. Good. So it's able to change the text and make the selection for us. Okay, good. So that is the third method for working on drop downs using Microsoft Power Automate. Thank you so much for joining me for this session. Catch you on the next one.